Ever wonder why your body can stay upright and move explosively? It's because your skeleton is split into two systems. The axial skeleton gives you structure and protection, whilst the appendicular skeleton gives you mobility and power. The skeleton serves as the body's structural framework with 5 primary functions, supporting posture, enabling movement through joint articulations and muscle attachment points, protecting vital internal organs like the brain, heart and lungs, storing essential minerals such as calcium and phosphate, and housing bone marrow for blood cell production.
Hello and welcome to the beginning of Topic B, Biomechanics. Here we have our overarching guiding question, which we'll attempt to answer bit by bit as we tackle the syllabus content. That is, how are the structure and function of the musculoskeletal system related to the movement of the human body? In this first session, I'll explain the skeleton's axial and appendicular components and their functions in movement, protection, and physiological processes. We'll also look at positional terminology used to describe the relative positions of body parts, which will help you with the application and understanding of movement patterns, particularly sporting or exercise-based ones. The human skeleton is anatomically divided into 2 distinct components with different primary functions. The axial skeleton, which forms the central core, including the skull, vertebral column and the rib cage, primarily protects vital organs and maintains upright posture, and the appendicular skeleton comprises of the limbs and their connecting girdles, including the shoulder and the pelvic girdles. These primarily facilitate locomotion and manipulation of the environment. A simple classification method for students here is the bone that is part of the arms, legs or their attachment structures belongs to the appendicular skeleton, and all other bones form the axial skeleton. With that being said, pause the video for the interactive content towards the end and use the timestamps in the description to jump to different sections. Now, let's get stuck into the content.
The objectives you should achieve by the end of this video include being able to describe the anatomy and function of the axial and appendicular skeleton, and secondly, state anatomical terminology to describe relative positions of body parts. A simple start to the criteria content for the beginning of Topic B, biomechanics and generating movement in the body. Here we go. The axial skeleton contains approximately 80 bones organised into 3 main groups: the skull, vertebral column and thoracic cage, with 3 primary functions: protecting central organs, providing postural stability and serving as attachment sites for respiratory and postural muscles. The skull consists of the cranium, including the frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital bones, protecting the brain, and facial bones, including the maxilla, mandible, zygomatic, supporting chewing and sensory structures. In contact sports like boxing and rugby, helmet design reduces linear impact forces, but rotational forces causing concussions remain challenging to prevent. The vertebral column includes 7 cervical vertebrae, enabling head movement, crucial for ball tracking in sport, 12 thoracic vertebrae, forming the protective rib cage with limited mobility, 5 lumbar vertebrae, bearing body weight and enabling flexion/extension, vital for lifting and sprint mechanics, plus the fused sacrum and coccyx, providing pelvic stability for force transmission to lower limbs. Additionally, the vertebral column also includes the intervertebral discs, acting as shock absorbers, requiring neutral spine positioning for safe movement. The thoracic cage, formed by 12 rib pairs and sternum, protects cardiovascular and respiratory organs while providing attachment points for breathing muscles like the diaphragm and intercostals, with rib expansion directly increasing thoracic volume for enhanced ventilation during exercise. The appendicular skeleton contains 126 bones designed for mobility, force production, and environmental interaction, comprising of the pectoral girdle, which includes the clavicle and scapula. This suspends the upper limb and creates a highly mobile shoulder platform where dynamic stability from the rotator cuff muscles compensates for reduced static stability, making throwing sports prone to shoulder injuries. The upper limb bones include the humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges, and enable reaching and fine motor control. This is exemplified in tennis, where humeral rotation and forearm pronation and supination coordinate racket positioning, though this mobility increases injury risk, including distal radius fractures and elbow tendinopathy. The pelvic girdle, formed by fused ilium, ischium, and pubis bones, transmits body weight between the axial skeleton and lower limbs while providing robust attachment sites for powerful locomotor muscles like the gluteals and hamstrings. Sex differences can sometimes affect biomechanical function, despite being classified as appendicular due to its limb connecting role. The lower limb bones include the femur, patella, tibia, fibula, tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges, and facilitate weight-bearing propulsion and balance. This is demonstrated in sprinting, where the femur and hip extensors generate propulsive forces, while the patella increases quadriceps mechanical advantage. Though it should be noted that this system is susceptible to femoral stress fractures in endurance athletes and to ACL injuries related to hip-pelvic alignment dysfunction. The skeletal components function through synovial joints that determine movement capabilities. Ball and socket joints like the shoulder and hip allow multiplanar motion, with the shoulder prioritizing mobility for throwing actions, while the hip emphasizes stability for weight bearing. Hinge joints such as the knee and elbow permit flexion-extension movements, and pivot joints like the atlas axis enable rotational movements, demonstrating the fundamental stability-mobility trade-off in joint design. Bones function as rigid levers, with joints serving as fulcrums and muscles providing applied forces, exemplified by second-class levers during plantar flexion, where the calf muscles generate large lifting forces with relatively small muscular effort, and first-class levers during neck extension, where the atlanto-occipital joint acts as the fulcrum between the weight of the head and neck extensor muscles. Understanding these biomechanical principles enhances coaching effectiveness, instructing athletes to extend at the hip using the femur as a lever to increase stride length, connects anatomicals, knowledge to practical movement optimization, linking skeletal structure directly to athletic performance and technique refinement. The body's anatomical position serves as the standardized reference point, with the body upright, arms at sides, and palms facing forward, enabling consistent use of directional terms, including superior, meaning toward the head, and inferior, meaning toward the feet, anterior, meaning front, and posterior, meaning back, medial, meaning toward the midline of the body, and lateral, meaning away from the midline of the body, proximal, meaning closer to the trunk, and distal, meaning further away from the trunk, and lastly, intermediate, meaning between two structures. Movement terminology describes specific joint actions, including flexion, which is decreasing the angle at the joint, and extension, which is increasing the angle at the joint. We then have abduction, which is moving away from the midline of the body, and adduction, which is moving toward the midline of the body. Lastly, we have rotation, which is turning around an axis, circumduction, which is circular movement combining multiple actions, and specialized terms like plantar flexion, which occurs when pointing the toes downward, and dorsiflexion, which occurs when pulling the toes upward. These terms apply directly to sport analysis. Shoulder abduction occurs during volleyball spiking as the arm moves away from the body's midline. Hip extension drives sprinting propulsion as the thigh moves posteriorly, and dorsiflexion prepares the foot for ground contact during running, making precise anatomical language essential for effective movement analysis and coaching communication. Take a moment to pause the video and practice the joint movements on screen now, with some applied sporting actions that you can think of. Bone tissue comprises of compact bone, providing structural strength, and spongy bone, enabling metabolic activity and shock absorption. This is particularly prevalent in vertebrae, with cellular activity driven by osteoblasts forming new bone, osteoclasts clearing old tissue, and osteocytes acting as sensors that detect loading patterns. Wolff's law demonstrates bone's adaptive capacity to mechanical stress through continuous remodeling, making weight-bearing exercise crucial for increasing bone mineral density and explaining why athletes develop stronger bones in response to training loads. Long bone growth occurs through endochondral ossification at growth plates, creating vulnerability in adolescent athletes, where early sport specialization and repetitive loading can cause growth plate injuries that potentially affect final bone length and structure. Red bone marrow, primarily located within the axial skeleton and proximal ends of long bones, serves as the body's blood cell factory through haemopoiesis, producing red blood cells for oxygen transport, white blood cells for immune defense, and platelets for blood clotting. Bones also function as the body's primary mineral reservoir, storing approximately 99% of calcium and 85% of phosphate, with bone remodelling processes regulated by the parathyroid hormone, calcitonin, and vitamin D. Maintaining precise mineral homeostasis is essential for muscle contraction, neural transmission, and metabolic functions. This dual role highlights why adequate dietary calcium, phosphate, and iron intake becomes crucial for athletes, as deficiencies not only compromise bone health through altered remodeling, but also impair blood cell production and mineral availability, directly affecting both structural integrity and physiological performance in sport and exercise contexts. Now we've reached the interactive section of the video, we'll take a look at a hypothetical scenario for understanding the axial and appendicular skeleton. In this scenario, you are coaching a 14-year-old competitive swimmer, Maya, who specializes in butterfly and backstroke events. During video analysis of her butterfly stroke, you notice several technique issues affecting her performance and potentially increasing injury risk. General technique issues that have been identified can be seen on screen now. Your task is to identify which skeletal components are involved in each technique deficit, explain their primary functions in swimming, and propose specific interventions, addressing the biomechanical issues while respecting the distinct roles of axial versus appendicular structures, generating propulsion and maintaining body position. Let's take a look at the scenario specifics and the relevant data. Pause the video as it appears on screen. Construct your solutions and suggestions now. Possible solutions and suggestions for this scenario can be seen on screen. This includes the immediate interventions to correct both the axial and appendicular skeleton issues, focusing specifically on the functional issues, technique modifications, and strengthening exercises. The integrated axial-appendicular coordination can be seen on the right-hand side and includes a streamlined emphasis, interventions and feedback with a periodized approach. As a result of the modifications and interventions, we can expect to see a complete resolution of lower back pain during and after butterfly training. Improved streamlined position in backstroke with rotation from thoracic spine rather than head lifting. Increased propulsive force and an enhancement in ankle flexion range of movement. If you came close to this with your suggestions and solutions, well done. Let's move on to some formative assessment and exam technique. In this section, we'll have a go at some quick-fire multi-choice questions based on the axial and appendicular skeleton content, which may appear in paper 1A. Pause the video here, have a go, and see how you get on. Let's take a look at the mark scheme so you can self-assess. Okay, good stuff. Next, let's have a go at some data-based, short answer and extended response questions, which may appear on paper 1B and paper 2. For possible short answer and extended response style IB exam questions, you may be required to discuss the structure and functions of the axial and appendicular skeleton, identify positional terminology in describing relative body positions, or distinguish between parts of the axial and appendicular elements. You may also need to use calculations and equations outlined in the sports science data booklet where necessary. On screen, you can see some short answer questions related to the video content. Use the command term key to carefully consider the requirements of each DBQ and ERQ question and construct your answers with the appropriate level of detail. Pause the video now and give them a go. Now let's take a look at the answers and see how you performed. Take a moment to pause the video here to reflect and self-assess. That is the end of the content on understanding the axial and appendicular skeleton. We can finish by thinking about the following linking questions from the course guide between what we have covered in this video for topic B and topic C. C 2.1. Can understanding and applying the correct anatomical terms of movement increase the rate of learning a skill? If you found the axial and appendicular skeleton subtopic interesting, you may wish to pursue a scientific investigation in this area. On screen, you can see some sports science internal assessment ideas and key considerations you may wish to use to support with formulating a research question. To summarise, the skeleton is the framework enabling support, protection, movement and physiological processes. The axial skeleton includes the skull, vertebral column, thoracic cage and provides central stability and organ protection. The appendicular skeleton, including the girdles and limbs, enables mobility and interaction with the environment. Understanding anatomy, positional terms, bone physiology and biomechanics is essential for analysing movement, preventing injury and designing training programs.
And that's a wrap on the axial and appendicular skeleton, guys. If you made it this far, hopefully I've earned your subscription, so go ahead and smash that subscribe button, because we're just getting started with topic B, biomechanics, and trust me, it only gets better on from here. Oh, and also, before I forget, if you're a teacher or a student looking for ready-made assessment resources, maybe some IA ideas or revision tools, I've got a whole collection over on my test shop, perfect for formative assessments or last-minute exam prep. The links are in the description below. Do go and check it out. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, part of me wants to go full freestyle mode in these videos, maybe crack a few jokes, maybe throw a few random sports references in or two, but the teacher in me just won't allow it. I need structure, I need organisation, I need my bullet points. And obviously, if you're a teacher watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We just can't help ourselves. But here's the good news. As we dive deeper into biomechanics, we're going to have way more applied examples, real sports scenarios, and interactive content for you to get through. Think slow motion replays, movement analysis, forces in action, the kind of stuff that makes sports science really come alive. So it's going to get a lot more dynamic, I do promise that. Coming up next, we're tackling planes of movement and axes of rotation. That includes sagittal, frontal and transverse planes and how they apply to every movement you see in sport. It's going to tie beautifully into what we've covered already. Speaking of which, if you need a refresher on any topic A content before we move forward, I've linked a helpful episode right here. I'd highly recommend giving it a watch. All right, that's it from me. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's keep learning.